The American Revolution. Hello and welcome to this video on some facts about the American Revolution. The American Revolution was a pivotal moment in the history of the United States. It began in 1765 with the passage of the Stamp Act by the British Parliament and lasted until the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783. The Revolution saw the 13 American colonies break away from British rule and establish a new nation based on the principles of democracy and individual rights. Causes of the American Revolution. The British government, after years of war and debt, decided to tax the colonies to help pay for its expenses. This led to widespread protest and resistance by the colonists, who saw the taxes as a violation of their rights as British subjects. Additionally, the colonists had grown increasingly dissatisfied with British rule, feeling that they had little say in their own governance. The Stamp Act of 1765, which required all legal documents, newspapers, and pamphlets to carry a tax stamp, was a particular point of contention. The colonists saw it as an attempt to censor their speech and limit their freedom of expression. Events leading up to the Revolution. In response to the Stamp Act, the colonists organized protests and boycotts of British goods. The British government responded by sending troops to the colonies to enforce its laws, which only served to further inflame tensions. In 1773, a group of colonists, led by the Sons of Liberty, boarded 3 British ships in Boston Harbor and threw their cargo of tea into the water in what became known as the Boston Tea Party. This act of rebellion led the British government to pass a series of laws, known as the Intolerable Acts, that further restricted the colonists' freedoms. The First Continental Congress was convened in 1774 to address these issues and to organize resistance to British rule. The Congress called for a boycott of British goods and formed a militia to defend the colonies against British aggression. The Revolution. The first shots of the Revolution were fired on April 19, 1775, in Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts, when British troops attempted to seize colonial weapons and ammunition. This event, known as the "Shot Heard" round the world, marked the beginning of the Revolution. The Continental Army, led by George Washington, was formed to fight the British. The war was fought both in the colonies and in Europe, where the Americans received support from France and Spain. The British suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, which convinced the French to officially enter the war on the side of the Americans. The tide began to turn in favor of the Americans, and the British were forced to surrender at the Battle of Yorktown in 1781. The Treaty of Paris was signed on September 3, 1783, officially ending the war and recognizing the independence of the United States. Frequently asked questions. What was the Stamp Act? The Stamp Act was a law passed by the British government in 1765 that required all legal documents, newspapers, and pamphlets to carry a tax stamp. What was the Boston Tea Party? The Boston Tea Party was an act of rebellion in 1773, in which a group of colonists, led by the Sons of Liberty, boarded 3 British ships in Boston Harbor and threw their cargo of tea into the water. Who was George Washington? George Washington was a military commander who led the Continental Army during the American Revolution. He later became the first president of the United States. How did the French help the Americans during the Revolution? The French provided military and financial support to the Americans during the Revolution, which helped to turn the tide of the war in their favor. What was the Treaty of Paris? The Treaty of Paris was a document signed on September 3, 1783, that officially ended the American Revolution. Like the video and remember to subscribe to our channel.